This is Vinny with Tenacious Recovery. Got to be tenacious about your recovery if you want to stay sober. Again, my name is Vinny. I'm an alcoholic and an addict.
And I'm Sam, alcoholic and an addict.
And I'm Matt, and I'm an alcoholic and addict as well.
My man. Go ahead, Sam. Take it away, buddy.
So I met Matt. I'd say Matt was somebody I met professionally about 7 or 8 years ago. But over time has become a personal friend of mine. I'd say we kind of go through life together. We have very similar circumstances. Try to figure out how to be father, how to be a husband, how to be like a man with continuous sobriety, and basically just functioning as a regular adult, because that's kind of what happens, in my opinion, is one day you wake up and you're like, wow, I'm not like some kid with 3 years sober anymore, and like this regimented schedule that surrounds like 12-step fellowship or like helping people get into treatment. Like I have a life now, you know what I mean? Like I'm about to take my kids to summer camp for the summer, and I'm now going through a packing list for them to go away for a month. And I'm like looking at it and I'm like, this is madness. Like
It's different from where you were 12 years ago.
If you talked to me 12 years ago when I was like running around Baltimore, running around North Philly, and said like, brother, listen, 10 years from now, you're going to have to not print out one, but 3 copies of a camp packing list, and your wife's going to have an electronic labeler to label stuff, I would have laughed in your face.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And I know Matt is a family man. That's his number one priority in life, much like mine. And I've heard like tidbits of his story throughout the years, but I'd love to hear it all strung together. And I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about what life's like today, you know, on the other side of being a decade sober. So what's up, brother? Thanks for coming, man.
Yeah, no problem. Good
No,
morning.
I really appreciate you. I know this was like kind of, well, how far of a drive is this for you? An hour?
It took about an hour, but
Yeah.
it's Monday morning. Smooth.
Appreciate you coming
Yeah.
out. And by the way, it's 2 decades sober, not 1.
I know. Well, he's almost there.
Well, not
Yeah.
quite.
I'm not
two,
even
but
at a decade yet, but you know, on the other side of
Exactly.
a decade, you know, is when life, I can imagine, changes drastically. But I mean, I don't really know a lot about early life for you. Is that something you'd care to
I'd love to.
take it away, pal?
Yeah, no problem. Thank you guys for having me this
Yep.
morning. You know, I couldn't be more excited to come and just, you know, sit amongst friends. And, you know, Sam has been a guy that, especially moving, you know, from South Florida back up to Pennsylvania, you know, when you lock in to try to find like a new group of friends at 35, it's a lot different than finding friends at 12 or early recovery, you know, for myself at 21. At 35, you know, I was looking for guys that had similar interests, similar vibes of what I was doing. I moved back to Pennsylvania, you know, this is a recovery, you know, podcast at about 11 years sober. And was almost like a fresh newcomer into a pot. So I was attracted to guys in recovery, as well as, you know, the next level of my life was fathers.
Yeah.
right,
you know,
sure.
and husbands and guys that showed up for their family. And those are, you know, some of the attractive qualities, you know, so thank you. It's been a treat to be part of your life the last couple of years.
Likewise, buddy. Yeah, it's so funny. I think back to when I had like 2 years sober or 3 years sober. Like the guys I hung out with, like none of us were really alike. Like I've hung out with like,
You had one thing in common?
yeah, dude, I've hung out with guys that were like 41 years old and single and like in the dating apps and like running around chasing tail and like spending their entire paycheck at like either a GNC or like Marshalls, you know what I mean? And living in a recovery house. But I've also lived in a recovery house with a guy that was like an airplane technician at Boeing, you know what I mean? And at that time, the only thing we all had in common was that we were trying to figure out how to stay sober. You know what I mean?
Yep.
All of our lives had led us to a point that we literally had to pay weekly rent to learn how to put one foot in front of another in life. But like now, if a guy called me and said, hey, brother, you want to go see an 11 o'clock movie on Friday night? I'd be like, you're out of your fucking mind. I'm going to sleep at 8:45. Are you nuts?
You and Joe invited me to do that.
I did do that
was the
one
most
time.
bizarre thing ever.
It was so fun,
I
too.
politely declined.
It was so fun, too. But like, if
Dude,
someone called me.
that's like something like for me. Because I don't go to bed till like 2 a.m.
You don't go to bed,
whatever.
yeah.
I'd be like, yeah, I'll do a movie at 11. What the
Yo,
hell?
buddy, you and me should
You want
definitely
to
go
get
to the
coffee
movies.
at midnight?
Yeah. No,
I'll
I will
drive.
say-
Where
I'm
are
a-
you?
I'm
Bucks
a 10
County? I'll
o'clock
pick you up.
Yeah, but dude, like, I felt that was like probably the raunchiest thing I've done in the last 5 years was going with my other sub 30-year-old friend to see Gladiator in 3D at 11 o'clock at night. I was like, buddy, listen, I'm gonna have a coffee at like 4 p.m. to do this. You know what I mean? I don't ever drink coffee after 4 p.m. because then I don't sleep. But I find that my life is now intertwined with people who have similar values to me. You know, that's like what it is. And I struggle. I struggle because all my kids are in school, much like yours, right? And what do you end up doing? Your kids make friends, and then you're forced to integrate with their parents.
Yes.
And you're always kind of like, I'm always like sizing.
that.
I size up other dads. You know what I mean? I'm like, what do you do? And they're like, what do you drink beers? I'm like, I don't. They're like, why is that? I'm like, because I smoke crack too, you know?
Yeah, I never had to integrate with other dads.
Well,
maybe it was just me. I don't know.
You probably just looked at them all and were like, get away from me, you know?
Maybe I was the one that was kind of standoffish.
You
I don't
didn't
know.
feel the need to, but like, you know, even in my neighborhood, like my kids, they run free and they'll all be like, yo, you want to go to the bar? And I'm like, yeah, I can't do that. And they're like, I mean, like, I'll go with you and I'll have like a club soda with a lime.
There's only so many club sodas you could drink.
But I'm going home after 45 minutes.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I mean, that's such a cool thing to bring up now.
Yeah.
You know, just being a mid-30s man, you know, matriculating into life of daycares, preschools, first grade, summer camps. How do we socially still feel included and bring a peace, yet not engage in drinking, drugging, whatever, you know, the new crew of dads you're meeting are doing?
Well, for me, it really arises now is what I do with these other dads is I play golf. They all are like, let's play golf. And I'm like, cool, let's play golf. And it'll get, you know, it's a great time. We can socialize perfectly until they're like, hey, have you ever been to this bar called like the Good Dog in Philadelphia? I'm like, yeah, I was thrown out of that bar for smoking crack in the bathroom in 2009. And they're like,
lifetime ban.
And they're like, whoa, dude, like you did what? I'm like, yeah, I also used to like bang the hostess as well. Like, and they just wouldn't let me in there anymore. I'm sure I could go in now. Like it's been 10 years and they're just kind of like, their eyes are so wide because at face value, I present as just like a regular member of society, but they don't understand that 10 years ago, like I was a feral creature, dude. Yeah. Like I was a beast. Like I was not what they would know to be any type of man, you know?
See, and I think that's one of the coolest things about recovery because I know we're not on video, but you're kind of dressed like a nerd.
Yeah, I am dressed like a nerd.
I wouldn't look at Sam as like, yo, this guy parties or has fun.
I'm the guy with the Harley Davidson stuff on.
You, Vinny, you look like I wouldn't want to hang out. You're a little rougher. But Sam looks like a guy who does my taxes.
100%.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which I take as like the highest compliment.
And you know what?
100%.
Crazy thing is, I probably could do your taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll take it if you want to do it, you know, the legit
no, I'm not
way.
doing your taxes.
Yeah, yours are too complicated.
Yours are way too complicated. But
those are the goals of life like that I wanted because, you know, when I was actively, you know, getting high and using drugs, I just wanted to be normal. And that was like the endless goal of, because I grew up in a very nice town, nice family, nice schools, all that.
Same here.
Just the guy who was just not on that path. Where I accepted, like, you know, they talk about in the book that, you know, the alcoholic life becomes the only normal one. I took that kind of with like a badge of honor once like 15, 16 came around and I was not on track to go to like fucking Bloomsburg or Shippensburg.
Right.
It was like, all right, I'm going to drink and do drugs and see where life takes me.
See how that goes. So what is, in regards to how did it start for you? Like, what's your early life look like?
Early life was perfect. You know, I'm a product of a great mother, father, Irish Catholic, went to Catholic school.
12 years for me.
Congratulations. Right? I made it 9 and then politely got asked to leave after freshman year.
Where'd you go to high school?
I went to Lancel Catholic, 9th grade, North Penn, 10th. Ended up with a diploma from the state.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
I did the same from the state of Maryland, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
I wound up with a GED that I got I went to a million high schools as well.
And look at you now.
I know, dude, but getting your GED on like a cracked tablet from the city of Baltimore is not fun. It's funny because I hadn't been to school in like a year and I took it and I like aced the test because it's the GED from the city of Baltimore. But
I had something very similar.
Yeah, dude.
I was like 2 years removed from school. Flew home from St. Thomas where I was living in the Virgin Islands.
Oh yeah, tell me,
Took
how'd
a
you wind
test.
up down there?
We'll get into all that.
Yeah,
Let me ask
about
you
it.
this: like, I know you got into recovery at like what, 21, you said
Yeah,
roughly?
21, 22.
So when did you start abusing whatever it was you were abusing?
Early. 11, 12, for some reason.
Same here.
Yeah, like I always thought drinking beer looked cool. I always thought smoking pot looked cool. So, very, gentle early on, but I knew the first second I tried substances, I loved substances. I like to drink. I like to smoke. If it's there, I'm going to try it. Luxury became necessity, and lifestyle just became there, where I was just kind of stuck in it until I wasn't anymore. Tried multiple ways to stop, drinking this, just smoking that, doing it. Tried it all. Didn't work. Kept winding up back in rehabs, and never.
How many times did you go to treatment?
3.
Oh, I thought you were like a one and done guy
No,
for some reason.
one summer. I started March, did a little stint.
Yeah.
Little detox in June. Last stint came in October. I still remember. The
So you went
fills
to treatment 3 times in 2 quarters.
3 times 2 quarters.
Oh, wow.
And then,
I'm a one and done guy.
He's a one and done guy.
I'm a
congratulations.
one and done guy. Yeah.
I'm just a 23 and done guy. Yeah. Yeah.
23 times.
3 completions, though.
Oh, just 3 completions?
Correct.
You were bad.
I would go to I was a bartender in the city.
Yeah.
So I would finish my shift on Sunday, and then I'd have no work till Thursday. So I'd be like, I'm gonna get on the train and go to this treatment center out in the county. And I would do that, and they'd be like, Sam, you're gonna stay? I'd be like, yes, I'm gonna stay.
Right.
I'm gonna complete. And I'm nice. So they'd be like, all right, come on back. And then come Thursday, I'd be like, gotta go to work, guys. See, it's been nice. Thanks for the laundry and the shower and the food. I feel better ish. And then I would go to work. And sometimes I would do it again the next week. Especially because I had nowhere to live. I was like the classiest homeless person you've ever seen. I probably, in like 3 years of not really having anywhere to live, managed to be outside very minimally, unless I chose to.
So you're a big high school guy. Like you were like an abuser in like late grade school,
Yes.
early and through
Yeah,
high school.
I'm talking 6th, 7th grade,
Yeah,
smoking
yeah.
pot, then high school. And it was each year was like a new drug.
Right.
That would hit like the market.
Yeah.
Like I remember ninth
Gotcha.
grade, like loved Xanax.
Oh, wow.
And then 10th grade came, it was like the last little bit of the ecstasy phase. So it was like
wow.
there was ecstasy into ketamine, into coke, and then the pain pills
Yeah.
came, which, I'm talking 2002.
Oh, wow.
So
Back when the 80s were still around.
That was, they were big.
back when the 80s were like $10.
Right.
And none of us really
crazy.
knew the magnitude of what was coming on. I knew I loved to get high. I make a joke all the time. I remember I had a couple buddies that we were all getting high, and everybody would say, like, hey, when you stop taking these things, you're going to be hurting. Never like, hey, you're going to withdraw or you're not going to feel good.
Yeah.
And they were so cheap that it never ran out.
Right.
Until like the end of school. It was like, all right, fuck, I got to stop, sniffing these pills. Let's try to be normal people. And then we were all hurting.
Yeah, you're all sick.
Welcome to like the next 5-6 years of chasing.
Absolute hell.
Correct.
Yeah. That's so crazy, man, because towards the end, even a perk 30, like Oxy 80s were $10. A real perk 30 now is like $50.
It's insane.
If you can get them.
If you can get
If you
'em.
can even
You
get
know what I
'em.
mean? Most of the time you're just buying pressed fentanyl. That's what you're buying.
Yeah.
And that alone, that's $25,
Yeah. A lot of it, like at the end of my use, I was using heroin, but it was solely I was priced out of Oxycontin.
Oh, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the normal transition.
Yeah.
You get priced out of all the pharmaceutical stuff. The only thing you can afford is what you could buy on the street.
Correct. And it was something, back to, having a nice childhood. I was like taught like, hey, smoking crack is bad. Doing
Yeah.
heroin is bad. Your morals and, your inhibitions just drop dramatically, in the course of addiction.
How'd you wind up in the Virgin Islands again?
My father. The coolest part is I had a good family. That's why I didn't live on the street, probably
Yeah.
like you did.
Yeah.
My family understood. They loved me to death. Put me down in the basement. Like, hey, I'm one of 5, so I had younger brothers and sisters upstairs. But my dad was not the guy to like, hey, you're not following the rules. Get out of my house. He was very solution based.
Yeah.
So I still remember being like 16, strung out on oxys, like Googling a treatment center in Pennsylvania. Now, Grant, this is 2002, 2003. The treatment landscape, it was not what it is today.
Not at all.
Oh, yeah.
There was very minimal resources, very minimal options. And my mother, I had a school district insurance plan that was all there. But I remember my father, it's like right when Google started, we Googled a treatment center in Pennsylvania. He called and they were like, yeah, sir, it's going to be about $90K. And my dad was like, no fucking way.
Yeah.
Looked at military school.
Of course.
And then like
That's cheaper than 90,000.
Exactly.
Wow.
And then the third option was like, hey, you have an uncle in St. Thomas and an aunt who runs a bar. Why don't you go learn how to run bars and restaurants?
Oh my God.
Go
St. Thomas.
Go live with him.
Yeah.
And so it was a geographical change, which on paper and everybody's I was like, well, there's definitely not going to be Oxycontin on this little small island. Great idea. Let's get you a plane ticket.
I always tell
get outta
people,
here.
if I put you on the moon, you will find it on the
Oh,
moon.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, which I actually never found Oxycontin down there.
Oh, that's cool.
But the cocaine was very cheap.
Yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
I'm sure it
It's always a
was.
substitute.
I'm sure it was.
And that's where like I knew I was a real deal drug addict and alcoholic. Because I went there with like a firm resolution of like, yo, I'm going to change my life. I'm going to learn the hospitality industry. I'm going to make, and I did very well for about the first 6 months. I'm air quoting sobriety, but I didn't drink and I didn't smoke pot.
Right.
I worked in a bar, but I started learning these new lifestyles. I have an uncle who actually just passed away a couple months ago. but
Sorry to hear that.
Was one of the most influential people in my life.
Yeah.
Met me where I was at. He grew up on an island called Dominica. No electricity, up in the mountains.
Wow.
And like just looked at me as this like spoiled suburban white kid who couldn't stop doing drugs, and now I'm living in his house.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was just a major impact. It was like, yo, dude, like I heard you sleep till 2:00 in the afternoon. I'm like, yeah,
That's
what,
over. Those
that's
days
what
are over.
16-year-old white kids do. He was
Right.
like, no, dude, like 5:15, we're up.
In the
Let's
morning.
go.
Yeah,
Oh
we
my
got stuff to
God.
do. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a rude awakening
It was
right there.
It was a big time rude awakening. So I was practicing like early sobriety, but also learning, really monumental life things I would use. Fast forward, I'm a 40-year-old man who
Right.
can't sleep past 5:15 if he tried.
Oh my God, really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, typically kids are crawling in my bed.
Oh, yeah, I get that.
Yeah. You don't really have a choice.
Yeah.
Not as much. That's why I like the 10 o'clock bedtime. So no movies with Sam at 11.
No.
Oh, right.
No movies at Sam at
Yeah.
11. Yeah. One time I tried to get him to come with me to this meeting. He was like, it's a little late. It was like an 8:30 meeting. He was like,
Too late, dude.
he was like, that's a little late. I'm like, buddy, it's in Malvern.
it's not even
close
dark
to where
yet.
it's so close to where you live. And he goes, but it's not, because he's like, then we sit for 20 minutes. I get home. I can't do it. It's too late. I'm like, all right,
That's
I hear
funny.
you. So what brought you back?
Cocaine.
Cocaine brought you back from the Virgin Islands?
Correct.
Oh, so you were doing too much of it there?
By the end of it.
And you had to
so
get out.
The geographical changes only worked for so long.
Of
Without
course.
a
That's right.
spiritual component, without actually doing what we're taught in this. Oh, yeah. 2-3 years later, I'm sniffing an 8-ball a night.
That's why I told you,
course.
if I put you on the moon, you'll
Correct.
find it on the moon.
Yeah.
They only work for so long.
And that's how I knew it was an issue, because it's funny. Every single day, I would be like, all right, I'm not going to sniff coke tonight. I didn't even enjoy cocaine, but I did it every fucking
It was
day.
habit.
Yeah.
At that point, it was habit.
I don't know how you can work in a bar and not do cocaine all the time, because that was my experience.
Dude, I bartended
You did it
after I got
in
sober,
recovery.
believe it or not.
Yeah.
But it was few years later. I had some sobriety under my belt, but I used it like it was a license to print money. I made tons and tons of money
yeah.
when I was bartending, and it was great. I met my wife there, and she was a bartender, and things worked out really well. But I don't tell people to do that. Like you don't take a blind man to the movies. You don't take a drunk to the bar. You know what I mean?
That was my profession, and I couldn't stay sober, working in bars. And it's so funny you bring this up. The other day, I was in Atlantic City for a conference for my current profession, and I go out behind Caesar's Palace onto the boardwalk. I'm looking at this spot, and it takes me back years.
Under the boardwalk?
What?
What were you doing under the boardwalk?
On the
man?
boardwalk.
Oh,
No,
oh,
on the boardwalk. I would first of
Sorry.
all, I would never go under the Atlantic City boardwalk, dude. God knows what
you don't
lives
know
under
what is
there.
crawling
Yeah.
under there.
But years ago, I worked at a summertime like bar that was like had a big outside presence in Philly, and one night we all made so much money. This is like 2011. You know what I mean? I think we all made like eight or $900 in one night. And we all decided at 3:00 in the morning, 3:30 in the morning after we closed, all strung out of our faces, to go down to Atlantic City and get a room at Caesars.
Sounds fantastic.
We did. We took a cab. You know what I mean? We took a
That's
cab.
pre-Uber days.
Yeah, dude. We took a cab from Delaware Ave, where the bar was, straight down to Caesars in Atlantic City at 3 in the morning. I'm like playing blackjack. I'm having a good time. Eventually, I realized I ran out of Coke. So I walked out onto the boardwalk to call somebody, and I'm smoking a cigarette. And I see this guy. And he kind of rubs his finger across his nose. And I'm like, yes, dude. And that guy sold me the best bag of Coke I'd ever purchased in my entire life. I swear to God, it was the best I'd ever had. It was so good that I would not shut the fuck up about it. And I used to just go down to Atlantic City just looking for the guy. Like, I'd be like, no, he's going to be there. We have to be there at 5:30 in the morning on a Thursday. He's going to be there. Like, I was so obsessed that I would just go down there hoping I would see him again.
So what happened last week? You stepped out onto the boardwalk, got a flashback?
No, I didn't see him, but I had a flashback to like literally not even that night, but like the other nights that I would drag people down there just looking for this guy. I'd be like, he's going to be here. We just need to wait right here. That's how obsessed I was. You know what I mean? That I literally bought drugs off a stranger in Atlantic City on the boardwalk, and it had me in such a chokehold that I would just wait there, hoping to find those same drugs again, which was just wild, dude. I mean, I close my eyes, I still see his face.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, dude. It was, I think I honestly kind of had forgotten about that until like I was just down there. I was like, oh yeah, I remember like making people thought I was insane. They'd be like, dude, you don't know who this person is. Like, you're never going to find this ever again.
I will find him. If there's a will, there's a way.
Dude, I was so obsessed that I literally thought I would be able to get back to it. So back to the Virgin Islands. So you come back to the Virgin Islands.
Come back from the Virgin
Islands and go what? Right to treatment?
No.
Was that like the plan? Did your dad know what was up? Did your family know what was up?
My
your
dad
uncle had been fed up with you?
Yeah, no, I was good at burning bridges. 3 years was about my shelf life before it was time to move on. When I was in desperate moments, I could essentially agree to anything. My dad was biggest supporter, but was like, if you're gonna come home, like, what's the game plan? Because you're not just gonna come live in my basement, smoke cigs with your brother, do drugs. Like, there needs to be a plan. And we developed a plan. I was gonna go to Montco Community College,
of course,
take some classes, get a job not in the restaurant industry, get a little more on a 9-to-5 schedule. And I agreed to it all for about a week.
And did none of it.
None of it. I got home, late August, got right back into drugs, signed up for school, went to about a week of class, turned in all my books, sold them, get a couple $100 back
Yeah,
then.
those things are expensive, bro.
Yeah. Then stole them out of the cafeteria to sell them again. And it was like I had a whole hustle down at Montco for about a year.
Did you? A book hustle?
It was a great hustle.
Oh, my God. What, you were doing like every couple of weeks? You were just flipping books? Never went to class?
Every day.
Yeah.
Not every week. I mean, at that point, when I came home, the cheap Oxycontins we're talking about were now like $50, $60.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was like a book a day. My younger brother and I and one of our buddies, we wouldn't even go to class. We'd just show up to the cafeteria, take a book, take it right over to the bookstore, right down the city.
Oh, wow.
It was like without fail.
Wow.
We did it every single. That was like
What, you would steal like a stranger's book?
somebody was gonna have to go get their chicken fingers for lunch.
You just grab their book?
Just grab their big textbook off their desk or wherever they're sitting in the cafeteria, march it right over to the bookstore, return it. Back then they'd give you $70 cash. That was enough for a bundle.
Yeah.
Back in Newports.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic day.
That's
$5.
a good. Did you ever get caught?
No.
Not once?
Knock on wood, no. I know years later I heard stories. I think that the hustle is like the Home Depot hustle. Like,
yeah, of course.
People have all gotten caught eventually.
Yeah, the Home Depot hustle is
Granted.
with the gift cards?
Yes.
Yeah,
I never got caught.
Yeah.
That was one consequence, from a legal perspective. Apart from a couple underage drinkings, possessions of pot, I was very lucky with the law.
Dude, I'm shocked that like the bookstore didn't catch on because there's probably the same old lady in there every day.
And the same guys bringing books in every single day.
Dude.
Honestly, we never thought that far ahead.
Yeah.
It was a couple other, it's community college. It was like the 13th grade. To us, like it wasn't real life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were, zonked out of our minds anyway. We didn't really care.
Yeah, you were just, yeah.
I used to call community college high school with ashtrays.
100%.
Because you could smoke back when I went when I went to college.
In community college,
Well, you could smoke there or any other college.
you could smoke in the class.
I don't know about if I ever saw anybody smoke in class, but everywhere else.
Everywhere else,
Everywhere else.
Yeah, what are we talking? The 80s? 90s? When did
86.
you graduate high school?
I graduated high school in '83.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, that was a long, long time ago, and you could smoke anywhere, basically.
It's funny. Even in high school, I smoked cigarettes all over the place.
So did I.
Even on my high school campus. Yeah.
Yeah, even like in bathrooms and stuff. And
Yeah.
whatever.
I was the
would.
king of smoking. If I was going to high school, I was smoking cigs after every period.
Every second I could. Yeah.
I'm still like that today.
Yeah. That's the same.
I love all forms of nicotine.
So do I. I'll never give it up. My wife gives me like such a hard time about it.
I've been sneaking a vape from my wife for 10 years.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
That's a conversation.
knows
he and I
we're in
have
the open
regularly.
now.
Yeah, we're in the open
I
now.
smoke
as am I.
cigars, but that's it. And I need like an hour for that. You know what I mean? And it's not like a habit. It's more of like an enjoyment.
Yeah.
Sit down, relax, maybe throw some music on, whatever. Not really a habit per se.
So post book hustle. So is this leading up till you starting to consider getting better?
Correct.
Yeah.
That's when life was really at its darkest.
I mean, you always considered getting better, right?
I always knew something was wrong.
Okay.
I always knew that I was using more drugs and I had, just not gotten off. Like I was almost a failure to launch because I'd have little blips.
Right.
Like when I lived in the Virgin Islands, I was making good money. I was able to support myself and have a house with some buddies. And I would get to a certain point and then it would all fall down. So it was just kind of like a fresh restart to come back.
Correct.
But I actually never restarted.
Right.
I essentially picked up right where I
Gotcha.
left off.
Yeah,
when
you
I
just
came home.
adapted. You know?
Correct.
You just adapted.
Yeah.
So you go to treatment 3 times in a short period of time.
Correct.
You go, you leave. Did you complete every time?
First one, yeah.
Yeah.
Second one, half completion.
Yeah.
I was a good talker back then.
You're a good talker now.
They
Yeah.
let me off, with the completion after 5 days. Couple, little Suboxone.
Yeah, they're like, you don't need
good
to
go.
be here. Yeah.
How about the third time? Was that like the real deal or what?
Third time was the true real deal because I went. I remember the first time I was in treatment. It was St. Patty's Day. Love St. Patty's, and I remember that like striking me deep. I was about 21. All my buddies were like, that was the first year we could legally drink at the bar.
Of course.
People were very stoked. Like that was going to be the night. Go down, to the
Oh,
city
yeah.
bars. Didn't go. Got out, and it's funny because the night I left treatment, I actually got drunk at like some shitty Delco bar.
No
with
way.
like 5 buddies I met in treatment.
Oh, wow.
Had a blast. Came home the next day and as if that never happened.
Really?
And like sobriety starts. So like I went to a meeting that night and like announced I had 31 days, just got out of treatment.
Even though you had a day.
Had a day. Bizarre land.
Then how'd you wind up in South Florida?
Because I set off that demon. I mean, for that next 2 months, I remember I was going to meetings. I was, heavily medicated from the, pills they gave me in treatment. My life was so miserable.
Yeah.
That eventually, my birthday's May 19th. That night, I got high.
Yeah.
That was before you went to
That was-
your last episode of treatment.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And then it was that summer, the 22-year-old summer. It was 2 months in the wild, month inside treatment, month in the wild,
Yeah.
month back
Gotcha.
in treatment. Like I wasn't thriving very well. Wasn't taking suggestions. They were giving me like, hey, sponsor meeting, 90-90, halfway house, all
Sober
that.
living. Yeah.
Yeah, and I did none of it. So I got none of the results. I was high in a week and life was getting just tremendously worse.
So you go to treatment the last time, and they sent you down to South Florida.
Yeah.
And you went
So
to
you went from treatment in Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania.
We know you were in a central Pennsylvania treatment center, and they sent you what, for extended care or like sober living?
Sober living.
Gotcha. Okay.
that was what it was back then. It was just sober livings in South Florida because
Yeah,
the
dude.
culture was so good.
We're talking 2007. I remember getting presented. I remember the therapist I had there was fantastic. It was like a 6'10" Muslim guy.
Yeah.
Who, played professional basketball.
Yes.
Hit me with like 3 options. Was like, we have a great sober house in York, Pennsylvania. We have another one in like Port Richmond, Philly. But if your parents can come up with $400, we can get you down to Boca Raton, Florida. And I remember like, call my dad, ask him. And my dad was like, that's the best thing I ever heard.
Yeah.
And within a week, I got a scholarship to a sober living down in Florida.
And how long did you live there?
2 years.
You lived in the sober living for 2
So
years.
I'll dial it back. So I actually lived in the sober living for 3 weeks, had to test the waters one more time. I met the best girl you could ever meet in a sober living,
Of course.
and we got our own apartment together.
Oh,
Really?
nice.
Lasted about 3 weeks.
Right.
Yeah. Did you stay sober though?
I did not.
Oh, you did not in South Florida.
There's 2 morals to this quick little story I'm going to
Okay.
tell you. One, don't smoke crack.
Oh yeah, I'm aware of
That's
that
a good one.
Yeah.
And then 2, don't steal Jewish girls' Hanukkah presents.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Sam
know
knows that.
I know
Sam
all about
should
that.
know that.
Yeah, we
Definitely.
don't. Yes.
Because they'll stab you.
Yeah.
And I got stabbed by
What'd
the
you
girl
steal?
I was dating.
What was the Hanukkah
literally
present?
everything. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
It was
Wow.
the year the iPod Touch came out.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that?
Of course. I stole a few of those.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
stole hers. I basically had, she was a waitress. When we moved out, her father put up the money, got this beautiful, what I thought, which fast forward later, a shitty little apartment in Lantana, Florida. We move in directly from our respective halfway houses to there. Father furnishes it. The first night there, we celebrate by getting drunk. And
Yeah,
sniffing
of course.
so now this is, a couple weeks before Christmas, which was nice because she was starting to get her Hanukkah gifts.
Of course. Yeah. There's that's a whole week. Yeah.
Each night she would get her Hanukkah gift. I would then, in turn, the next morning, take it to the pawn shop.
Of course.
Ah, God.
And did that for about a 2-week run until everything got pawned out of that house.
How did you get sober though? This is crazy.
Well, this is the last bit. I mean, this is my last 2 weeks of active use,
Yeah.
leading up to December 31st of 2007.
And you didn't
So
go to
then
treatment
you
down
went
there?
to treatment?
No treatment. When I actually got sober, no treatment.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Same here actually.
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you went to treatment, but you didn't stay sober
Nope.
on your third stint in treatment.
No.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, third stint. No, I was not like out, stayed sober forever. No, I had to test it one more time
Gotcha.
in Florida.
Okay.
I had to see
Okay.
what their crack.
Did you go back
tasted
to
like.
sober living?
I did.
Okay.
They
And
let
that's
you
where-
back in?
And
Wow.
They let me back in. Once again, as long as my father paid the $800,
Of course.
Yeah.
which he did, and
Again.
that is where my life kind of changed.
Your life changed. And how long were you in sober living then? 2 years?
2 years,
Yeah. Wow.
all levels of phase 1, 2, 3, and then they had graduate houses back then,
It's yeah.
which was like really cool. I lived with 4 of the best guys who I'm still very close with now.
That's cool.
Sober living down there in that time was so good, but it was almost more structured, like how some treatment programs are up here now.
It was way more structured
Oh,
back
man.
in the day.
I mean, the recovery house that I got sober in was. It's funny because in the beginning it felt like so much structure. Like the house I got sober in was so strict that if you didn't do your chore, if you left your room messy, like they would take your bed and throw it on the roof of the garage.
Oh,
And you would have to pull it off the roof of the garage. Or if you left your clothes on your floor and it was raining outside, they would throw your clothes out in the rain. In the
I guess that
beginning,
beats getting kicked out.
what?
No,
I guess that
it-
beats getting kicked out.
I was in a similar place. It was more about like shame and like a therapeutic community of guys holding each other accountable.
Right, but I'm
just
saying
learning.
that's better than I'd rather get my clothes thrown out the door than me having to leave the center or having to leave the.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, so
especially
you at
in
least
the rain.
had a place
Yeah.
to live.
So what's funny about it is when I think back on it is when you get there, all the structure, the chore sheet, signing in and out, the meeting sheet, keeping your room clean, cooking dinner for the whole house, all this stuff feels like so much. You get there and you're like, what the hell did I sign myself up for? This is so much. Now that I look at it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's just how a regular functioning member of society
Yeah,
lives their
exactly.
life. You know
You
what
get
I
up
mean?
and do those things.
That's just a part of life. That's what being a man looks like, I would have loved to have been in sober living for 2 years.
So what'd you do after those 2 years?
Just slowly started putting my life together. The cool thing with the sober living, it was like the bridge back into society. I took your like stereotypical call center South Florida job.
Oh, okay.
Selling
You
diamond
started
blades.
working
all
and
the-
stuff. Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
I worked from day one.
Right.
My dad would pay the first week's rent, but 2, 3, show
That's
up
on you,
and,
yeah.
make it for yourself.
Oh yeah, by the end you're paying it all on your own, right?
Yeah, but back then it was $180 a week.
That's a lot.
That was a lot for back then.
Back then, dude.
Seriously.
When I got sober, it was 100 and sometimes if I was in the city, it was 130. And if I was where I got sober, it was 160.
A buck 80, 15, 18 years ago.
That's a
That
lot.
was
Yeah,
a lot
it's-
back then.
That's
You were in a good one.
I was in but I was also a couple blocks from the beach, downtown
well,
Boca
yeah.
Raton.
Oh,
Yeah,
there
that's
you
an
go.
expensive
There you
area.
go.
Yeah.
There was value.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the 12-step culture down there is like none other.
It's something that blew my mind. that was one of the biggest pieces of why I'm here today.
Of course. I mean,
Walking in and
if
seeing
not
just
the biggest.
the young crew. I went to meetings up in like the Montgomery County area, and it did. Now, granted, I wasn't in the right frame of mind, but it there was nothing appealing there yet.
Well, no one was
me.
holding your hand up for you, you know?
No,
It's so different when
There
you
was
go
good
in there.
sobriety down in Florida. But I mean, I'm sure there's still good sobriety
Great
down
sobriety.
there. But it was really good long time ago.
Well, I feel like and people forget about this. Like everyone thinks about South Florida as this like dirty treatment
I know.
market, but what they forget is where there's a lot of treatment, there's a dirty treatment market as well as really good
A really
sobriety.
good yeah, exactly.
There's always both. You look at
Yeah.
Los Angeles now, like it's
Yeah.
the same thing. It's the grimiest, dirtiest treatment market in the game, but I guarantee you that
There's
the
great
AA
sobriety
is,
out
is
there too.
unbelievable.
the recovery
you know?
was so solid.
Oh,
That-
yeah, of
Yep.
course.
in 2007, treatment wasn't a thing yet. 'Cause
Yeah.
I make a joke like the
Oh,
night
it was a thing.
for me, because I remember, like I wanted to get my last night using. Like I really wanted to go to detox, and I called, and like my mother was a teacher. I had an Aetna PPO.
Oh, you had the good
A
stuff.
couple years later, I could have gone anywhere, including on the moon.
Of course. You could have gone anywhere, yeah.
They told me to come back in 3 weeks because they didn't have a bed.
They didn't have a bed, yeah.
So, like, say that in South Florida now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would not
But
be.
it was cool because then the men of like AA and the whole recovery communities really just like jumped in, and I was like, yo, this is a lost, broken kid. Like, let's get him well.
Yeah, get your hand up. Tell us about yourself. These are the steps. You know, it's so funny. The longer I stay sober and, look at my life professionally, the more I see like the 12 steps kind of like they look like an option, They look like more of an option. And I don't know, man. The more I've never once in the years I've been doing this seen a single human being go work all 12 steps to the best of their ability and come back and be like, well, that was a load of shit, Never, not once have they ever
Not
done
me
that.
either.
You know what I've seen a
Yep.
lot of, and especially recently, a lot of people go, yeah, that's not for me. And then they go relapse and they come back and they're like, I don't know what to do,
Yeah. How about all the steps?
It's right there,
Right.
bro. They hang it up on a banner on
You
the
skip-
back wall for a reason.
You skipped
know what
the
I
good
mean?
one. You skipped the hard one.
Never once a person do all of them and been like, yeah, that didn't help me or that wasn't for me. Not one time out of like the 5,000 people I've dealt with. You know what I mean? Never. And for some reason, more and more people are like, yeah, there has to be an alternative way. Why the fuck is that? It bothers me to no end.
Well,
that-
on this podcast, we always say there's more than one pathway to sobriety. We always say that. Now, when I came coming up in early sobriety and up to now, I believe in AA and the 12 steps. That doesn't mean everybody goes through AA and the 12 steps.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and say it's my way or the highway. Like,
Yeah.
whatever you need to do. But I've always found the most reliable way to get sober is get a sponsor, go to meetings, and work the 12 steps.
cover to cover to the best of your ability.
Yeah.
And that is, it's not a guarantee you'll stay sober, but it's a step in the right direction.
No, there was a lot of people
It
that
almost
did it
is.
before. I'm an experienced guy. Somebody told me their experience versus their opinion, and their experience, they did the 12 steps. They stayed sober. Now, my recovery has fully evolved over the past 18 years.
Sure.
where it's not as, stringent as I was the first couple years. But it provided that foundation so I could go explore alternate angles. And when life showed up, I knew I could always be involved. And that's, those 12 steps are still kind of secretly playing in my head.
Oh, they always come
course
back
they
when
are.
you need them the
Sure.
most. You know what I mean? I always tell guys that like we grow away from it because the gifts are our lives. Like
Correct.
there are children, there are marriages, there are mortgages, there are, you know what I mean? For Vinny's got 2 motorcycles. You know what I mean?
Love it.
Yeah, dude. Like, and he'll how many miles you putting on a motorcycle in a week?
I don't know. I mean, it's tough to guess.
Let's say like lifelong average though, like a lot.
I don't even know. I go out when it's nice out.
You go out when
That's
it's
all.
nice out.
Is that
you know
your
what I
thing,
mean?
Vinny?
That's
Sometimes-
the
That's your
thing.
fad? You're a motorcycle guy?
Yeah,
Oh,
I was
yeah,
a golf
dude.
guy for a long time back in the 90s and 2000s, and it just got too long. It would take you an
Because-
hour to get to the golf course,
And then you're out
5
for-
hours of golf, and an hour to get home. Like, I'd rather just go out on my bike and ride around.
for 2 hours.
You know, I'd rather
Yeah.
leave my house and go down the shore for like a coffee
Yeah.
and a cigar, and then just turn around, drive back.
Yeah.
Like
Down
what's-
42.
What's better than that? I mean, that's just my opinion, but
Well,
you know,
I love that because that's the progression of kind of like recovery and what people are doing. You know, Vinny has substantial time. He's a
He's got
motorcycle guy.
motorcycles.
Sam's caught in the golf fad right
Bad,
now.
yeah.
for now.
I'm
in it
retiring
bad.
from the golf fad. I'm now a duck farmer.
You're not, oh yeah, he's got
I'm a
dogs.
duck
Oh
guy now.
wow, really?
Yes.
Oh, he's also a pool guy.
I am also a pool enthusiast.
Yeah.
Pool like swimming pool or
Swimming pool.
Oh, I got a good one out back.
I would
Yeah.
love to. I
Take
would
a
love
look
to
at
open
it.
up your filter.
No, he's
and-
got a company, dude.
Oh, you have a company.
small company.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought
but
you
it's
were.
solely out of passion.
It's solely out of passion
Really?
and
Yeah.
solely out
It's
of
not-
YouTube videos and
what?
not wanting to pay an invoice because I felt like I was getting scammed on the pool cost.
Dude, I
Yeah.
know what you mean.
And he's got a
Believe
beautiful
me, I know
little
what you
pool.
mean. Yeah.
Duck farmer.
good to
How are the
remember.
ducks?
The ducks are fantastic.
How many are there
I
again?
have 3: Emily, Orange, and Jana.
Nice.
That live
Did
in
you
a
let
tent.
each kid name one?
They did.
Yeah.
I have like 11 pets here, just so
yeah.
you know.
That's
So I know what you mean
Fit
about
right in.
raising pets.
my wife's been asking. I live on like what I consider a gentleman's farm.
Yeah, you do.
Which is not. I live 2 acres in like King of Prussia.
Yeah, that's cool.
But it gives enough to we can have a little taste.
The duck. I could never do that. I'm trying to get rid of some animals, but
My daughter wants chickens, but
for the farm,
she don't live
setback,
here, so I don't really care.
that-
Go get them if you,
You
want
would
them.
let her get them if she lived here.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So you're in South Florida. Back to Matt's story,
Please.
and this is, I'm guessing, like a fairy tale, an AA fairy tale like none other. You go down there, you find yourself, self-respect, relationship with God. You made some really smart business decisions over time, had the opportunity to build a company and then sell it, right? Where's the wife come into play?
Ooh,
Yeah.
good question.
Yeah.
Been married how long?
I've been married. Just celebrated 8 years.
Cool.
Married. Been with my wife about 11.
Cool.
I like how Sam put it. Fairy tale.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was an AA.
It's an AA
life.
fairy tale,
It,
yeah.
it was fairy tale.
Yeah.
Did everything I was essentially supposed to do, that I was told, to do. Life got really good, and it just constantly gets better.
So you met your wife, who I know, Liza, down in South Florida.
I did.
Not to.
Born and raised down there?
She's not.
No,
No,
she's-
Oh,
both born and raised in Pennsylvania.
really?
Yeah.
Which
oh,
was
wow.
even
That's
cool.
cool.
Makes
Even-
things easy.
It did.
Yeah.
So for like long-term goals, I met my wife. I was 30, so I had already essentially had companies and was progressing in my career. That it made it a little easier when finding your partner. That we had
sure.
kind of the built-in connection of how we wanted the next 10, 20, 30 years to look.
Cool.
And you guys decided to move. Did you get married right before you moved back
We
here?
did about 3 months prior to moving to Pennsylvania.
Moved back here.
got married.
Moved to where you moved, and then you started having children.
We did.
Lucy's your oldest.
Lucy's my oldest.
How old is she now?
She'll be 6 in August.
She's so cute, man. She's a cute little kid.
They're all fantastic. And then I have Mickey, who's 4.
Mickey's a bruiser.
He's a maniac.
Nice.
Yeah.
I got long hair, no shirt, no shoes, wearing kids.
Yeah, he'll like punch you right in
Nice.
your face.
And he
Oh,
will
love
it.
also hit you with the sword.
Yeah, he's
Love
a
it.
bruiser, dude.
And then my little guy's my lover,
Yeah,
who's just sweet. He's like a human. We make jokes. He's like
Right.
an English bulldog.
That's cool.
He'll just come love you. And
which you
slap
also
you.
have.
Which I also have too.
Yeah.
Seamus,
Yeah.
big dog guy.
So, you still are active in the program, I guess.
I am.
Cool.
Not as well as, sitting back here when we're kind of like doing a little inventory.
Yeah, as we do it.
I should go more. I come through like fads because I always know, like my life is busy. 3 kids, in 4 years, multiple businesses, wife,
lot.
mortgages, kind of how Sam said it. It gets busy, but I always kind of catch myself where like I get excited for the program. Like I just had a buddy move up from Florida 3 months ago, where I went to meetings with him, every Tuesday night for 2 months,
Cool.
to get him acclimated, a little kick in the ass for me, So right now I'm riding a nice high of my meeting attendances through the roof.
You know,
Good.
it's so funny. My kids are about to go to sleepaway camp for the summer, and all I'm thinking about doing is just going to lots of AA. You know
That's
what I mean?
cool.
I don't have gymnastics anymore. I don't have what else they do? Soccer, dance, all the
Yeah,
things.
what don't
that, like,
they do?
They do a lot. They do a lot. Like after school is like the busiest time for me all week.
I know
right?
not to call you past 3 o'clock.
I know.
You're at the bus stop.
Because I'm like doing stuff. Yeah.
Right.
But all I'm excited to do is to go to AA. Like I was thinking about going to see like the Yankees play the Phillies, but like really, like I'm gonna go to a ton of Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. That's what I'm gonna do. That's how I'm gonna spend my time, and that's how I'm gonna keep myself busy so I don't have to spend that much time with my wife.
Oh.
I'm just kidding. But yeah, man, you are just have always been a beacon of like what I think a recovered man should look like, right? And it's been a pleasure to know you and to hear this kind of like bigger part of your story, you know, kind of more how it started, a few of the hustles and how it's sort of evolved to now has been a pleasure. Is there anything else like you want to touch on that like you're going through right now or like?
I can touch, we're a day after Father's Day.
Yeah.
And that was a big piece that, like, driving down here today, I purposely didn't listen to your podcast, so I didn't come in with any, like, themes. But the one recurring thing was essentially being a man in recovery, you know, who's raising kids.
Yeah.
And just kind of going through it. And the cool part is having other men in our lives that we can bounce things off of. Like, you know, you've always won, like I really respect the hell out of you when I do call you and you're like, I'm picking my kids up from school.
Always.
Or, you know, I'm at the farmer's market. Do you want to meet for a hot dog?
Yeah, the farmer's market's good, dude.
Like
Yeah.
just little things like that, having other men to go through this journey with.
Yeah, sure.
And sometimes fathers, you know, because we hold the brunt of the family.
Yeah.
You know, we get one little day to celebrate us, but the guys that, you know, are staying sober, showing up for their families, like doing work so we can bring healthy relationships into the household. Because I'm sure a lot of us didn't grow up in the most healthy household.
Definitely not. And I think
grew up in
that,
a great household like you. I don't know where shit went wrong, but it didn't go wrong with my brothers and sister.
I'll say that for me, because I was just born sick. So even if my family had a lot of love to give me, I wasn't able or ready to receive it. You know, I just wanted to be by myself all the time. But now I'm in a place now where I know the adolescence of my children is fleeting.
Yes.
It's very fleeting.
Yeah.
It's going to go away. Like they're really not going to care that much very soon. And they're not going to want me to pick them up from the bus. They're going to ask me actually not to pick
You'll
them
get
up
the
from
side
bus.
hug.
They'll be like, you
eventually.
can drive down the block and I'll meet you there. You know, like it's going to be different. And I can already see it starting to change. And
But how cool is it you being sober? You got to show up every day for that.
and or just to recognize that
Yes.
I'm in the times that I don't have to take for granted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm actively not taking them for granted.
It's like if any of you guys watch The Office, it's like Andy Bernard. Like, we're living in the good old days.
We're living, yeah, exactly.
If you
That's a great
realize it
line.
at the
If you
time.
realize it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish he always says, I wish somebody told me that I was in the good old days when I was living them.
And
like,
those are the reminders I get from guys like you and other guys. We're in the good old days.
yeah,
You know, with our families. And
the
and
best
it's
days.
only a result of us being sober. We'd be running around like savages. But
Yep.
instead, we're talking about our 3 kids in Vinny's house.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
that's the coolest piece of this whole thing is we get to do this and we get to choose every day. Like I choose, like I want to be with my family this weekend because I made these choices in life and I fucking love it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's what
absolutely.
I want to do. It's funny. Men will be like, yo, do you want to go to New York City to go eat at this place? And I'm like, no. I just want to stay home with my kids. And they're like, you're so boring now.
I don't
I'm
want to
like,
leave the
"I am."
neighborhood, man.
I'm like, listen, I used to go do stuff all the time. And like now it's more,
That's why me and Sam get together. We go to a diner.
we go to a diner.
Like, let's
dude.
go somewhere nice. I'm
We
like,
go
dude,
to the
I'm a diner
Penrose
guy.
in
Come
South
on, man.
Philly and we get the same thing every time.
Not every time.
For the most part, I've diversified. You're true.
I'm kind of, yeah. I
He's
know.
true
I
to
know.
what he likes.
I'm with him. I've eaten the same breakfast for 30,
Right?
30 years.
There you go.
I'm all right with it.
But let me take us back to the whole fatherhood, parenting thing.
Well, you've been through
Like
this.
one thing that we all have, all 3 of us have in our lives, is the fact that our wives, well, not you, Sam, our wives and our kids have never seen us impaired.
Correct.
Like your wife is, I get it, you know,
a glimpse.
She put up with some of it, but my wife, I didn't meet her till like 1991.
Yeah.
We got married in 93. We had a first kid in 95. I got sober in 86.
Wow.
So nobody I know today, almost nobody, is around who knew the old Vinny. You know what I mean?
Remembers. Yeah.
There are still some in South Philly that remember the old Vinny.
Of
but
course.
I mean, for the most part, like my life today, all they know is I don't drink, I don't do drugs.
Well, you've like lived the entire separate life now. Like your life re-began at that moment, and you've lived an entire lifetime to the degree that like you'll probably be a grandfather in the next 5 years, brother.
Well,
you know what I mean?
we'll
and then
see.
that's the next phase,
Sure.
you know? Which is you're the example. You're the end goal. You know what I mean? Is to
You should
be
set
able
your
to
sights
sit-
higher.
No way, man. Don't sell yourself short, brother.
I know, I'm just kidding.
You are an absolute beacon of recovery, and you are a great father. Your kids all your kids are all in their 30s, and they talk to
They're
you
in their
every day.
20s still.
Yeah, but like almost, you know.
Yeah.
They're adults.
Oh, yeah.
And
oh,
they
yeah.
call their dad and they
They're
still show
adults.
up.
Oh, yeah,
That's-
yeah.
And they
Yeah,
love
no
you,
doubt.
That's
man.
really
They
cool.
love you so much, man, and that is like, you know.
Yeah, I could have never imagined it back in the, late 70s up to mid 80s. I could have never imagined what I have now. I mean,
I see so many people my age that still have even like in recovery, you know, post fourth step, like post let's go through my resentment list and look at my part, that still have rocky relationships with their family, you know.
I mean, look, I always tell people, you didn't screw up those relationships in a month. You ain't getting them back in a month.
No,
you know
I
what I mean?
agree.
It
Yeah.
takes time. It takes, you may feel great, but that don't mean they're over their resentment.
100%.
You know,
I think like my biggest fear is that I would like ever do anything to push my kids away. To have like my goal is to have the relationship that you have with your children, you know?
you just don't have that behavior about you.
Yeah.
I mean, you could tell when you see someone
Yeah.
that, like, man, his kids are going to move 3,000 miles away.
Yeah.
You just don't have it.
I'm such
you know
a
what I mean?
psycho though. My kid's like, I got a job in California. I'm like, I fucking hate California, but I'll come move out there to hang out with you.
Right.
You know what I mean? I hate it there. I don't know why you
Sure.
had to pick there, but all right, let's do it. Yeah, the good old days. I really like that you said that.
Yeah.
The Andy
The
Bernard
good old
quote.
days are like right now.
They are.
That's-
We're in it
Because
right
if
now.
you look at the good old days, air quotes, how far back do you have to go?
Yeah,
The good old days weren't when I was out using and drinking.
definitely not.
The good old days started after that, and we're still kind of in them. But the trick is you have to realize you're in them.
Uh-huh.
If you don't realize you're in them, then the good old days will always be in the past, and you'll look back to whatever, and it won't be there.
And you're ultimately just taking everything for granted.
Yeah,
you know?
the good old days just won't be there, although you'll look back at something. So you realize it now, and you take advantage of everything now so that you have the good old days, you're in them, and you can look back on really, really happier times
Yeah.
or happy times,
Yeah.
My opinion, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Sure. But no, that's been my big theme, especially with this summer. If it ever gets warm up here.
Oh, no.
I know, right?
If it ever gets warm.
I gotta
Opened the pool 3-4 weeks ago. We still haven't been in it.
Same with us. I just get to clean it every day.
Every
Right.
weekend's been rainy and cold.
Yeah.
It's
No.
the middle of June.
I think it's supposed to be nicer this week,
We're
later
getting
in the
there.
week.
I'm just shooting for this summer, with the kids, living in the moment.
Just
You
do
know,
it. Being as present as possible.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you. When they were growing up, I worked a couple different jobs for a little while, whatever, and I never missed a practice. I never missed a game, and I missed those days. You know what I mean? But that's what you got to be there. You got to show up. You got to be present. You see people walking around the practice field on their phone, and their kids practice. They're not. You got to be in the moment with your kids.
Yeah.
If you get a phone call, you got to let people leave a message. You're not answering the phone when you're in the shower. So just take that to the next level and say, hey, this is my hour for my kids at practice. And that's the way it has to be.
That's kind of how it's turned into for me. Like if it's after 5 o'clock, if it isn't like something that's directly needed in the moment, I don't really. It took me a while to get there though.
Mhm.
It took me years
hard.
and years of practice to be like, this isn't important. You know what I mean?
I've learned to use the do not disturb now. And
Yeah.
it has changed my
Oh,
life.
good.
Yeah. Do not disturb's good.
Yeah. It's annoying to your friends and your family, but 5 to 8, me every night, do not disturb. I'll work again from like 8 to 8:30, you know, depending on what I'm doing. But that do not disturb button just it allows me to be, you know, as present as I can
As you
in this
need to
like
be.
digital crazy world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't get on the phone between like 5 and 7. That's the only requirement with my wife.
Five.
Like
I love
5:30
that,
to like 7 or what. Like that's dinner time. It's family time. It's whatever. And you know, to be honest with you, you leave me a message at 6:15. I mean, I'll get it at 7.
Yeah.
I'll get it at 6:30, 6:45, 7 o'clock. Whenever I,
Whenever
get back
dinner's
to.
done. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have family time. You have to have time for yourself.
Yeah. I like that. I may adopt that. My wife would certainly like that.
That's like my wife's requirement.
Yeah, I like
We're
that.
at dinner.
Yeah.
Like that's it.
Mine as
I'm
well.
only asking you for an hour a day, man.
That's
I can't argue with that.
Uninterrupted time. Yep.
No, especially you've eaten Liza's cooking. You know, she spends so much time.
Very
with the kid.
good.
My wife's
Lights out cook.
not just
Yeah.
because it's my wife, but you know, she learned from her dad. Her cooking is fantastic.
Yeah, my wife and her sisters, my sister-in-law, they're all great cooks.
Great cooks.
So if
Great
you're eating like
cooks.
her chicken cutlets, put your fucking phone down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
She
man.
will not let you at our table anymore.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
She'll
That's
tell you
cool.
to kick rocks right to your face. Yeah.
So what was like just kind of recapping a little bit? What was your turning point? What was your oh my God, I got to do something? Because I know what mine was. It was the last time I got arrested. It's like I really got to do something. You know, I spent April 14th, August 14th of 1986 in court, and I went to treatment on the 15th. It's like, what was that moment of clarity or sanity that you had that made you want to stay sober for good?
Yeah, I remember that very clearly. It was the last night that I partied, December 30th, 2007. You know, after a girl, we talked about the iPod. After stealing, using, we got in a little fight. She actually ended up stabbing me.
Nice.
I walked probably for 2 hours to a hospital in Florida.
Damn.
I remember I left my mother a message, so I called her at like 3 in the morning, and she saved that message for like 15 years.
Really? That's
that-
awesome.
That night was like a full moment of clarity of like, my way sucks.
Yeah.
It does not work. And
Yeah.
the next morning, life changed.
Getting stabbed and walking around Florida aimlessly. That's not good.
Yeah, and it was just not a fun night. I remember I walked literally, if people from Florida listen to this, basically from like Lantana and Congress all the way down to Bethesda Hospital in Boynton Beach, which is
Wow. How many miles is that?
I should retrace my steps, but it was
Wow.
a good haul.
That's got to be like 10 miles, right? 8
5,
miles?
6 maybe.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's
Got stitched
a good
up,
haul.
and I was in a meeting that morning. Got a sponsor that night. Haven't looked back since.
there you go.
That was it.
Yeah,
That's
It
awesome.
was very clear. It was, I wasn't at least going through it. I didn't think I was like a white light guy. I thought it was a little more garden variety gradual.
No, yeah, but when you think about it, it wasn't gradual. You knew you had to change,
Sure.
but being stabbed and walking down the street to a hospital, that is eye opening.
Yes.
That's not like gradual. That's like, I can't do this anymore because the next knife is going to be in my heart.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's good. I always like to explore what that moment of sanity or that moment of clarity is with people that get sober. And it's always different, obviously.
Sure.
And sometimes that moment is very fleeting and you have to grab it. You got to take advantage of what you did, which is great.
I remember that very clearly. I remember that next morning. I remember all the people that were there. Yeah, that was a very monumental day in my life.
At the meeting, you remember who was there or like gathered around
It was
you?
more about the sober living.
Gotcha, okay.
Sober living had such like a foundation of men there. That were guys also that were in the meetings, but like they were the techs at the halfway house. One became my sponsor, another became a very close friend.
Cool.
Just guys that were doing the right thing that I could follow.
Sure. That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, I really loved your story, the whole St. Thomas thing. And
Yeah.
in and out of treatment. I mean, a lot of us do that. We're in and out of treatment, but your story was awesome. And I'm really glad that you made the hour drive to
Come visit us, brother.
come visit us and tell us and the whole world, about your story and and how you could help people. Because obviously, like a good, strong AA meeting, people are going to get a lot out of this, which is great.
I appreciate you
having me
coming,
down.
brother.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks for
this
the
was
invite.
great, dude.
I almost
Thank
wanted
you
to
so
bail
much.
last night if Sam didn't text me.
Yeah.
Hit me with the
glad
Happy
you
Father's
did.
Day.
Oh, yeah.
did.
Right.
You coming
Yeah.
down tomorrow?
Oh, here's a reminder
Yep.
Yeah. 11:30.
not to cancel on us.
Yeah.
But that's cool. Like, we know life gets in the way, but we're really happy life didn't get in the way for you and you were able to make it down
I appreciate you.
to
I know
be
you're
on
busy, man.
to be on the show.
Yeah, this is perfect. Thank you so much.
Any closing thoughts or
Any closing remarks?
anything?
Nothing that really sticks out, but it's really cool what you guys are doing. It's
Appreciate it.
I like when people can step out and kind of just show a different piece of life or recovery or what's really passionate and intimate to them. So it's cool to be in any of those situations. So thank you guys.
We're having
Yeah,
a lot
you're
of fun with
welcome.
this. Yeah.
It's our pleasure. But you have been listening to Tenacious Recovery, the podcast. My name's Vinny. I'm an alcoholic and an addict.
And I'm Sam, alcoholic and an addict.
And I'm Matt, and I'm an alcoholic and addict as well.
And Matt, we really appreciate you. We really want to thank you for coming out. And